Okay, well, we'll move on with the class. We're going through my book called Eternal Lives. I wrote this for one of the few books I've written for kind of with the Mormons in mind, but got it's using not only the Bible and Orthodox knowledge, but the Mormon scriptures and Mormon teachings. So, but non-Mormons can also find this kind of interesting. Now, the Bible talks about the second death. Now, remember, it says, "Is given unto man once to die, and after this, a judgment." But after this, the word judgment comes from crisis, which is basically a word that could be interpreted as reincarnation. After this comes the reincarnation, we could say. But anyway, he says there's definitely more than one death. The Bible talks specifically about a second death. But what's interesting about this second death, it talks about it in the LDS scripture and the Doctrine and Covenants. And here's what it says. Why the Lord God caused that Adam should be cast out of the Garden of Eden from my presence because of his transgression, wherein he became spiritually dead, which is the first death. And he says this first death is even the same death which is the last death. Okay, so the second death is the same death as the death that Adam and Eve suffered. And what was that death? It was composed of two things. Number one, they were separated from the presence of God. And number two, they went from immortality to mortality. They become subject to physical death. Okay, so now if the second death is the same as the first death, let's say Curtis here was a really bad dude, and so he gets before the judgment board that everybody thinks we're going to have. And God says, okay, Curtis, you're going to have the second death. It's going to be the same as the first death. You're going to be separated from me, and you're going to be mortal. Now, what situation is that? What situation would you be in there?
I'm going to have to be.
Okay, that's where you'd be born
I'll
as
be
a
born
mortal.
into a new
You'd be
body,
born as a
which will
mortal,
die.
subject to death, and we're down here. We're separated from God. We don't see God floating around anywhere down here, so we're separated from Him. And so that's the second death. The second death is to have to go back and be reincarnated and be subject to being separated from the presence of God and subject to death and disease and pain and suffering, all these things. So we're in a second death right now. And if we're good guys, if we play our cards right, we can pay off our karma and we don't have to come back. And in the book of Revelation, it says, when we're in that position, it says, they shall go no more out of the presence of God after that. So, in other words, after we've overcome all things, we don't have to incarnate anymore unless we want to. But once we're in a
All things are theirs, whether life or death.
What's say, Curtis?
All things are theirs, whether life or death. They can choose to come back or not. Maybe go to another planet,
Yeah.
another world, if they've
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Mormon scriptures, it says a lot of things that indicate reincarnation and that just go over the heads of the members. Um, for instance, it says this in the Doctrine and Covenants. There are two kinds of beings in heaven that would be the celestial glory, namely angels who are resurrected personages, having bodies of flesh and bone. Secondly, the spirits of just men made perfect, who are not resurrected, but inherit the same glory. And then he says, that's in the same Doctrine and Covenants, the next section, that same sociality which exists among us here will exist among us there. Okay, so here we're told in the celestial kingdom. Well, before I get this, I'll make one other statement. In the, I believe it was the King Follett discourse, Joseph Smith said that those people that were in the church that died in the faith, they are now in the celestial kingdom, he says, which is a very interesting statement that goes against everything they're teaching. They say that, you have to be die and get resurrected, and then you go to the celestial kingdom. But here we're told that in the heavenly realms, there are two sets of beings that have been resurrected, and beings that are not resurrected, but just men made perfect, that are just spirits. Okay, so, and there in this kingdom, we have two sets of beings that are resurrected and beings that are not resurrected, that are just spirits. But they have the same sociality among them there that they have here. So what does this mean? So let's suppose that Curtis was a resurrected being. We'll make him a more advanced person this time. And Asaph isn't. He's just a spirit of a just men made perfect, and they meet. How can they have the same sociality among us if Curtis is a resurrected person? He tries to shake Asaph's hand and it goes right through it. Okay, because he's a spirit and Curtis is resurrected being. That would be the traditional thinking of what would happen. But that's not what would happen, because they have the same interplay there that they do here. So Curtis, as a resurrected being, meets Asaph, who's not a resurrected being. They still can shake hands. They still have the same interplay among us. There's not some barrier between them because one is spirit and one is matter. Because people get mixed up on this, and the fact that look at Jesus after he was resurrected. He appeared to the apostles in a sealed room. And how did he get into that room? Let's pick on somebody. How did he get in that room, Sydney?
Yeah, he walked through the wall.
Yeah.
Right?
How did he walk through the wall if he was physical?
Sounds like he was able to change his vibration and be able to move through matter.
Right. So in the celestial world, where we have, it says we have resurrected beings and non-resurrected beings, and they interplay with each other just like we do here in the flesh. Say Curtis is the resurrected being then, and he's tries to shake hands with you, who is a just person made perfect. What would happen?
Through you.
Would you be able to shake hands? Oh, I think Cindy froze up. What do you think, Curtis? Would you be able to shake hands?
Curtis is frozen for me. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
a bunch of people get frozen here today.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying, right? So you said the just man made perfect is
We're all frozen.
in spirit. Are we all frozen? Sorry, Curtis.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting that in the other world, then,
Okay.
people that are not resurrected, that were has just been spirits in the spirit body, interplay with people that have been resurrected in the same way. And the fact that Jesus was just able to go through the wall and appear in that room shows that what he did was, even though he had a resurrected body, he was able to turn it into spirit. Spirit is merely matter which is sped up, you could say, vibrating faster, whereas material matter is spirit that is slowed down. All is spirit. Even the Doctrine and Covenant says man is what? Anybody know?
Man is spirit.
Right. It says man is
Spirit.
That's what it says. Okay.
Spirit. God is spirit. Spirit. Yeah.
Now, supposedly, before Jesus was born or anything, the brother Jared had a vision of he asked for God to touch these stones, and so that they would be able to provide light in the barges. And when he asked for that, what did he see?
The finger of God.
Yeah, and that scared him. He says, I knew not that you were a person of flesh and blood. That's what he assumed. He saw a physical finger. And then the master showed himself completely to him because of his faith. And he says, what you see here is what is the body that I'm going to appear in later on. So he actually saw a physical body. Now, it's interesting that Brigham Young said this about resurrected beings, that Adam was a resurrected being from another planet. And he says this: when Father Adam came into the Garden of Eden, he came into it with a celestial body. And he quotes Adam as saying this: I once dwelt upon an earth something like this in a mortal state. I was faithful. I received my crown and exaltation, and I have the privilege of extending my work, and to its increase there shall be no end. So Adam, according to Brigham Young, which he said he got this teaching from Joseph Smith, was a being that had evolved on another world and had become resurrected and achieved an immortal state. But then it says in the Doctrine and Covenants that those who enter the celestial kingdom, it says they can choose life or death. And so even though Adam had received overcome all things on another world, he didn't have to die. He chose to come to this planet to assist mankind and be subject to mortality. And this agrees very much with the teachings of the ancient wisdom, which says that Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the earth, came here from another world, and he achieved immortality and overcame all things in another solar system. And so the harmony with what Brigham Young said here with the teachings of L.S.A. Bailey and the Tibetan are very much synchronized. Okay. Wherefore, it says, of those who overcome all things, it says, wherefore all things are theirs, whether life or death, or things present or things to come. All are theirs, and they are Christ's, and Christ is God's, and they shall overcome all things. So that's a strong evidence for reincarnation right there. Even if you believe that you only have one life on one planet, you're going to have life on, you can go to other planets and have life or death and be reincarnated. But what is missed is what has to be achieved to achieve the resurrection here, because the resurrection is something that has to be achieved. Paul said he had not achieved the ability to obtain the resurrection yet, that he hoped to achieve it. Now, Paul, after he was turned into one of the good guys, was a very advanced being, but he had not yet achieved it. It's something that has to be achieved. But when it is achieved, then the only difference in the celestial kingdom between you and the spirit of a person that has not achieved the resurrection is that you have power to materialize a physical body and appear anywhere that you want. The person that has not achieved this ability is they have the same intercourse with resurrected people in the celestial kingdom, but they don't have the power to materialize a physical body here upon the earth. Okay, but in the higher worlds, their bodies are very much the same. And Joseph Smith said this about the spirit, that man is spirit, and all things are spiritual. And spirit, he says, spirit is matter, but it's more refined, and we just can't perceive it here. But in the higher worlds, you have spirit matter, and the resurrected beings are not in dense physical matter there, but they lift their vibration up to spirit when they are in spirit. So in the higher worlds, a resurrected person and a non-resurrected person would look the same. But the resurrected person has the ability to recreate a physical body and manifest anywhere he wants. And that's a big advantage, because in the spiritual realms, regular spirit there does not have the ability to descend down here and appear to anybody. They can maybe appear in dreams, things like that, but not in a physical body. So it's the last enemy. It says the last enemy to be overcome is death. And so it's a very difficult thing to overcome and be resurrected and enter into that state where you have power over not only in the spiritual realms, but also to descend down to the physical at will. Okay. Any questions on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is resurrection post fourth initiation?
Yeah, it's the person doesn't achieve the resurrection is achieved in two stages. One is the fifth initiation. And matter of fact, some have called the fifth initiation the resurrection one, but its official name is the revelation, because the fifth degree initiate gets a major revelation of the work that he has to do. And when he completes the work, then he gets the fifth initiation, and then he has ability to extend his life. His physical body isn't immortal, but he has the ability to undergo rejuvenation. So these masters, some of them are hundreds of years old, but they're not going to live forever in their physical body, and they don't get complete control over have the resurrection as we think it until the seventh. And the seventh, they have power to allow their body to be destroyed and then recreate it. And but the fifth degree initiate doesn't quite have that power. He has power to rejuvenate himself and extend his life. But the seventh degree initiate, of which Christ was into the seventh. He got halfway through the seventh during his experience, where he actually was able to recreate the physical body, even after it was crucified.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Now, here's another thing that throws a monkey wrench into common thinking. We think that Jesus was the first guy to be resurrected, and the Mormons seem to think that Jesus was also Jehovah. But here's the interesting thing about this, is that Jehovah and two associates, two angels, appeared to Abraham. And Abraham fed them dinner. He invited them to stay with him. And it says, and he took butter and milk and the calf, which they had dressed, and set it before them. And he stood under the tree, and they all did eat. Okay. So it says Jehovah and two angels appeared to Abraham and had dinner with Abraham, and they were in physical bodies, and they ate physical food with him. And then later, these two of the angels went and appeared to Lot, and they also ate with Lot, and they were definitely in physical bodies. Now, here Jehovah appeared in a physical body and ate with Abraham. How was he in a physical body if there was no resurrection before Jesus? And if Jesus was supposed to be Jehovah, all that just doesn't really add up. But what adds up is there are high beings from the other world, even before the foundation of this world, that had overcome death and can appear in a physical body at will. So these three beings, and it names specifically that one of them was called Jehovah. It calls him Jehovah in the Hebrew. And Jehovah sat down with Abraham and he ate, and he must not have been a vegetarian either, because they killed a calf and ate it. And so there have been beings from other worlds and other times that that work with humanity here, that can appear in a physical body, if we are to believe the account in the Old Testament. Now, another interesting one is when Jacob wrestled with this particular being he encountered. Curtis, have you got audio there now?
Yeah,
Curtis,
I think
I know
so.
Curtis likes his story.
He
You want to
encountered.
tell us a story of Jacob wrestling with angels?
Well, yeah, in the land of Peniel, he is going through the dark night of his soul, and uh, Jacob, whose name means heel catcher because he followed Esau out of the womb, he's wrestling with an angel through the dark night of the soul, and the angel throws Jacob's thigh out of joint. It really made Jacob mad. So Jacob pinned the angel to the ground, and he said, "Okay, now I've got control over you. I want you to give me a new name and a blessing." And so the angel didn't have a choice, so he gave him a new name changed his name from Jacob to Israel, because he prevailed as a god, which was what the word Israel means. And the his lineage, the nations of the earth would. And so this happened in the land of Peniel, which corresponds to the individual initiate going through a dark night of his soul, and opens up the pineal gland, um, enters into the seat of divinity, and begins to prevail as a god in life.
And now
Did you get most of that?
yeah, most of it. Now, the regular religious people that read this call this person an angel, but what did Jacob call him?
A god.
Yeah, he said, I wrestled
Well,
with
he wrestled
God.
with an angel.
He said he
Yeah.
wrestled with God.
He wrestled with God.
And that's why his name was called
Which-
Israel, which means to prevail as a god.
As a
That's what
god.
the literal
Prevailed as a
translation
god.
of
Over
Israel
a
is.
god.
So Jacob wrestled with God and prevailed and out wrestled God. And so he got this new name of Israel, which means to prevail as a God would prevail. Okay. Now the word God here, now the person Abraham met and had lunch with was Jehovah, according to the scripture. But the word God here comes from the word Elohim. So Jacob had said wrestled with Elohim and prevailed. And so this was a physical being. And he says, what's your name? And he says, why do you want to know my name? And he wouldn't give him his name. And eventually Moses got a take on his name, but it's interesting. This was apparently, if he was an Elohim, that means he was a person that was resurrected on another world and achieved liberation and was working with the betterment for humanity. And he actually manifested in a physical body and wrestled with Jacob, if we are to believe what it says in the Old Testament. So there's a interesting thought to think of, that spirit is merely matter speeded up, and matter, physical matter, is spirit slowed down. And science is kind of coming up with that. They're saying that matter is pretty much light, which is slowed down, and and energy, what science calls energy, is kind of essentially spirit matter, you could say. So it's interesting how everything fits together. So it's putting this all together. There's a process we go through over many lifetimes. It takes many lifetimes to overcome this last enemy. It's the last enemy, it says, to overcome is death. And so to overcome death, we have to be alive on the physical plane to be able to overcome death. We can't overcome it by dying and then going to the next world where you can't die there. So there's not death to overcome there. The only place where there's death to overcome is where we're experiencing the second death. We're thrown back here in the second death, where there's death and hell and suffering. And we come here and we have to overcome it here. And it takes many different attempts before we finally achieve the liberation that the Christ was able to achieve. And it calls Christ the first in a long string of brothers, in the fact that he is an elder brother to us, an example of what he did, we have to do. And he says several times in the book of Revelation that we must overcome even as he overcame. And eventually, we will face that last enemy, which is death. And do you know anyone that's overcome death yet? Have you seen all of your older friends and family? They just keep dying. They just don't overcome it. It's a difficult thing to do that, to be able to overcome death. To be able to overcome death, what we have to do in our minds is be able to remove attachments from everything in the world. And then that's a very difficult thing to do, but once it's done, it will seem very easy. It's like it seems like we have to give up everything to overcome all things. But when it's all over, it'll be like we give up nothing to get everything. Think of that sentence. I will wind up giving up nothing to get everything. And but we're under the illusion that we have to give up everything to get maybe something, but we don't. It's very vague what it is we're going to get. And so we're not highly motivated enough to detach ourselves from the powers that the world has over us. Okay, my friends, any more comment before we sign off?
A short one. Are there, I hope the answer will be short for this. Are there entities that already overcame death but chose to come back in the physical and then made some mistakes and forgot all about it? Forgot that they overcame, and now they have to remember it anew.
Yeah, that's a risk. That's a risk the masters take, that they overcome, or many people, maybe they haven't actually overcome death, the fact that they obtain a resurrection like the Christ did, but they achieve a certain degree of enlightenment that they go to the next world and they don't really have to come back. They don't have to go through that final resurrection part, because they achieve a certain amount of spiritual platform, like they're like the just men made perfect. The just men made perfect, they don't have to come back. But if they want to become, take that final step and overcome all things, overcome that last enemy, then they can come back. But yeah, they can. But whenever any entity comes back into the dense physical, he can retrogress. He can make mistakes, and if he makes some big enough mistakes, he gets trapped here for a number of lifetimes and has to come back. And so it's a little risky. So Solf here, he could have been a master that come back and screwed up a couple of times, so he has to hang around here for a while to.
Yeah, that's what was I. That is what I was implying.
Yeah. So even the Christ took a risk in what he did in his mission. He had free will. He could have screwed it up. Okay, my friends, good to be with you, and we will continue this. We'll talk about the doctrine of baptism for the dead. Is there anything to that, and what's the purpose behind it? What's the real purpose? Until then, we will see you next week or maybe earlier, and have a good week.
Thank you.
God be with us all. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.